Hey everyone, welcome back to the weekly Watchlist video sponsored by MarketSmith. And before I dive into the video and show my full watch list, I want to know one stock that you're looking at next week. So leave it down below in the comment section right now, and I'll try to respond with my thoughts on as many as possible. So showing my list, this is my focus list. We've got 13 stocks on my radar. Many of them are forming handles at this moment. And as always, we'll go through both the fundamentals and technicals of all the stocks on this list. Dive right in. Let's start with Bill, and overall you can see nice sales growth the past 4 quarters. Not the greatest estimates, although estimate revisions are up at this moment, and you've got a nice increase in fund ownership over the past few years and a whole bunch of high quality funds in there as well. Looking at the chart, it's right within this handle under this pivot, which is at 192.5. A nice upside reversal action here on this Thursday as many growth stocks recovered strongly off the open, and then a fall through 2-2 reversal on Friday. So I'm looking for some fall through to the upside through this pivot as well as this high. And I want to see as much volume as possible on a potential breakout. Now, I wouldn't mind if this actually fails, undercuts these lows, and maybe has an undercut rally off the 21 EMA, this pink line here. But I'm really open to any possibility, either buying on some strength after some weakness, after that undercut, or on a true breakout to all-time high. So that is Bill. And moving on to CELH, you can see very strong sales growth and earnings growth the past 3 quarters. Great estimates for 2022 as well, with estimate revisions up. That's big. A nice increase in fund ownership over the past 2 years, although you don't have any high quality funds at this moment. Looking at the chart, this is a stage 3 base, so a little bit later stage. Ideally, this would be a stage 1 or stage 2, but it has rested pretty much all the way since the beginning of this year. Looking at the chart, it did fail the pivot breakout here and had a gap down, but since then it has recovered and is resting right near the pivot with a nice upside reversal bar on Thursday and then an inside day on Friday, although on much lower volume. So if there is a breakout, I really want to see very strong volume to suggest that institutions are behind that breakout, that buying, before I would consider it. But I'm looking for a push through these pivots and above this level, and eventually challenge of all-time highs 83. But overall, I'm very encouraged by the estimate revisions being upwards and such a strong projection for 2022. So that is CELH. And moving on, we've got DDD. Very strong earnings and sales the past 2 quarters. Really strong earnings this most recent quarter, up 525%. And estimate revisions are up, although not standout annual EPS estimates for this year or the next. And you've got a gradual increase in fund ownership and no high quality funds at this point. Looking at the chart, this is a very deep base here, but I really like this volume off the lows here after that earnings report, and then a strong move up, another rest consolidation, another strong move on volume, and now it's pulling back on below average volume to that 21 EMA and had a nice inside day on this Friday after an upside reversal on Thursday. So potential trend change here. I'm looking for a break of this DTL early next week on volume, and a move up towards the 41 level once again. So that is DDD. And moving on, we've got Etsy, another stock forming a little bit of a handle here within the base. Overall, fantastic earnings, sales, margins the past 4 quarters. Estimate revisions are up, which is something that we haven't seen for quite a while. And the estimates for this year and the next aren't standout, but they are getting there. And overall, you've got nice increasing trend in fund ownership and 4 high quality funds in there as well. As for the chart, this isn't really a proper base. We've got a gap down here, but did hold this level quite well. Then had a low cheat entry here. Now it's moved up and now had its first pullback to 21 EMA. Big upside reversal off the 21 EMA area on this Thursday, and then a very quiet and tight day on low volume on Friday. So I'm looking for a push upwards, a break of this downward trend here, and potentially a retake of the 200 level, and a challenge of this pivot, which is at a high of 207.84 as it tries to move up the right side of this base. So that is Etsy. And moving on, we've got Fiverr, which has a very similar chart. And once again, I'm watching for a DTL break after a nice action late last week. Overall, strong earnings and sales the past 3 quarters. Great estimates for 2022. That's huge, up 246%. Nice growth in fund ownership and 5 high quality funds in there as well. Looking at the chart, I already mentioned it, nice strong action to end the week off the 21 EMA area. I'm watching for a fall through this DTL and a challenge of this pivot at 257.41. And looking to the left, you've also got this pivot 238.83, which provided support last week. So promising action. I really like the earnings estimates for 2022, and we'll see what happens next week. Moving on, we've got GLBE, a recent IPO that's potentially forming a high tight flag setup here, and so far has pulled back from 64 down to 51, so less than 25%, and potentially forming a little bit of a flag here against the 21 EMA. I wouldn't mind a few more days of consolidation, but then hopefully it tightens up, forms a nice entry. We can get in here and potentially add if it challenges these all-time highs. Overall, great sales growth the previous 4 quarters. Not really any estimate information just yet, and we've only got 1 quarter of fund ownership information and no high-quality funds reported a position just yet. But I really like the power and accumulation signs in this chart. So that is GLBE, a recent IPO definitely to watch and keep on your radar. Moving on, we've got KRNT, KRNT Digital, which is forming a stage 1 cup with handle. Great earnings this most recent quarter, sales up 152% as well. Really strong estimates for 2021, up 343% with estimate revisions being up. And they're supposed to further increase next year in 2022 of 56%, which is pretty big. And overall, you've got a nice increase in fund ownership and 3 high quality funds in this stock as well. Looking at the chart, this is a stage 1 base. It did kind of fail this cup and handle breakout, touching the red area here. But overall, nice upside reversal on Thursday and a very similar day on Friday as well, finishing well at the top of its range, right above 120. So I'm looking for fall through to the upside and eventually a challenge of these all-time highs. Moving on, we've got NTLA. You can see not the greatest quarters, the most recent 2, but the chart is very strong. A huge move up here, up about 50% on news, and so far it's flagging nicely above 150. So not the greatest fundamental numbers. You do have an increase in fund ownership and 3 high quality funds, but mostly there's a play on the power of the chart. So I don't like this close too much. Ideally, it wouldn't have pulled back too much from these highs, but we'll see what happens. It did have a nice upside reversal on this Thursday and then an attempt at a move up on Friday. So I do want to see it follow through to the upside, but I actually wouldn't mind some consolidation days, going sideways, maybe undercutting this and finishing with a strong close near the top of the trading range, and then potentially a 2-2 reversal. And then that would provide an opportunity to get through this pivot and kind of go on to challenge these all-time highs. But we'll see what happens with this one, but definitely one showing a lot of power recently. Moving on, we've got Roblox, another recent IPO, great sales growth the past 4 quarters. Not the greatest estimates for this year and the next, but you've got a nice increase in fund ownership and 3 high-quality funds in this stock as well. Overall, looking at the chart, it's been a little bit messy here, choppy for sure, but it's holding up, forming a higher low here with upside reversal on Thursday, and then a quiet inside day to end the week on Friday on very low volume. So I'm looking for an inside day and up, a challenge of this intermediate pivot, and then the start of potentially the right side of a little bit of a consolidation here. Here's another pivot, and then potentially a challenge of all-time highs. But I wouldn't mind for it to go sideways, form out a proper base, potentially against the 50 SMA, tighten up, and then present a good entry. So moving on, we've got Roku, which is forming a stage 1 cup with handle, standard pivot of 462.99. Great earnings, sales, margins, the most recent 3 quarters. Great estimates for 2022 as well, with estimate revisions upwards. And you've got a nice increase in fund ownership and 4 high quality funds investing into the stock as well. And look at the chart, like many growth stocks last week, a nice upside reversal bar on Thursday, then fall through to the upside with a 2-2 reversal on Friday. Moving on, we've got Shopify forming a stage 9 base, but forming a really nice handle here. It did have a downside reversal bar on this Wednesday, but it is staying within this handle here. And overall, you can see great earnings, sales, margins, the most recent 4 quarters. Not the strongest estimates for this year and the next, but this is a kind of larger stock at this moment. And you've got a nice increase in fund ownership and a whole bunch of high quality funds investing into this stock. So I'm watching for a potential move up and breakout on strength, or an undercut rally against the 21 EMA, this pink line here, with a close near the top of the trading range. Moving on, we've got SPT, Sprout Social, decent sales growth the most recent 4 quarters. Not the greatest estimates, but you've got a nice increase in fund ownership and 4 high quality funds investing into the stock as well. As for chart, it's moved out of a stage 2 cup here and it's forming a little bit of a high handle against the 21 EMA. Nice upside reversal bar on Thursday. Then a pretty quiet day on Friday as well. I'm not quite sure if that's an inside day, but it's very close to being so. I'm watching, similar to many of these, for an undercut rally of the 21 EMA and these lows, or a move up and breakout on strength through these highs. And lastly, we've got Upwork, and you can see very strong earnings, sales margins, the most recent 3 quarters. Estimate revisions are up, although estimates aren't super strong, but you've got a nice increasing trend in fund ownership and for high quality funds investing into the stock. And as for chart, it's forming a stage 2 cup with handle here with a standard pivot of 61.21. Nice upside reversal on Thursday and fall through to the upside. So this would have been the ideal entry right here. And I'm watching for a move through this pivot or potentially another setup within this handle area at this point. And there are some kind of early entries here through this level and this one as well. And we'll see what happens with this stock. So overall, that is my focus list for this upcoming trading week. And this is one of my top 3 setups along with Roku and Fiverr. And remember to let me know down below one stock you're looking at for next week and why. And remember, if you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks.